Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon-lit halls of an arcade, with a murderous look in his... Okay, that's not quite it. Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon... Nope. That's not it. Let's try it again. Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon-lit halls of the arcade with a murderous look in his eyes. Yes, that's it! As you can see, music is important. Luckily for you, there's today's sponsor, MusicBed. With MusicBed, you get access to higher quality music than any other music resource. That means instead of thousands of variations on Mumford & Sons instrumentals, except on digital guitars that sound more like synths, actually, side note, who would want to start an electronic Mumford & Sons cover band? Let's talk after the show. Anyways, you get the real stuff that you would listen to in real life. Great musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work. MusicBed even has subscriptions that allow you to have unlimited access to their amazing roster of artists for one monthly or yearly fee, based on what kind of work you do. That's right. So whether you're making wedding videos, streaming a Call of Duty Warzone match, or creating an ad for that beer company that's making seltzers now, MusicBed has a pricing option that's right for you. Seth and I use it, you probably use it, and if you don't, go use coupon code GAMESHOW at checkout to receive your first month free when you purchase an annual subscription and start unlocking your film's full potential.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I've never pitched a movie before, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, that's not true.
I haven't.
Oh, it sucks. It's really hard. So here we go.
You played baseball before, right?
Yeah, I've thrown the ball towards home plate.
You just throw it as hard as you can. If they catch it, it's on them.
Oh my God.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan.
And I am still Seth.
And welcome back to the Writer's Room Game Show. It's the podcast where every week we generate an original feature film idea from scratch in under 60 minutes, working from a set of random prompts given to us by a big Hollywood studio.
Our script actually, for some reason, has a typo that says a big A Hollywood studio, which sounds like you are like a 12-year-old and trying not to cuss.
Big A.
But at the beginning of every episode, the Big A studio, which is really just an iPhone shortcut, assigns us, the contestants, a new project consisting of 4 components: the genre, the tone, the demographic, and a studio mandate, which is basically just a random thing the studio is requiring.
We then have 1 hour to develop a feature film idea that fits the assigned criteria, with surprise roadblocks along the way.
And at the end of the episode, we'll focus group the idea with someone from the target audience, which we were assigned, and ask them actual dumb focus group questions. And if they answer positively and we get the patented perfect Hollywood 40, as everyone in the industry calls it, we win and roll around in money for 8 hours.
And if they answer negatively, we'll quit screenwriting altogether and then do it again next week. That's about it. Before we get to our very special guest on today's episode, a few things. Guys, do not forget about our special Writer's Room Game Show Notes Hotline. Yes, we have a Notes Hotline. You can call if you didn't.
We have it because you wouldn't stop texting us and you wouldn't shut up about all the ways that you would have done it better. So tell us. We made the Notes Hotline. Call it and talk. You don't have to say your name. You can even say on air, don't use my voice, but you can use whatever I say. And we will say whatever you say.
What is the phone number, Seth?
Oh, we didn't say it. 1-866 HEY-WRGS, which makes us sound like a radio station.
Which is kind of cool. I like that. And
I
also,
like that too.
don't forget, Apple Podcasts, rate and review. We appreciate your ratings and your reviews, even if they're not great. I think it helps an algorithm of some sort.
We assume it does because other podcasts say it do. say it do. And we do it say and do it now. I am writer. The other thing, speaking of that, speaking of that, it has nothing to do with that. We did what you're supposed to do now when you have a podcast. We started a Discord for the Writers Room Game Show. Go to writersroomgame.show and click on the link that should be there. If not, follow us, Ryan or I, on Twitter and find the link. It's probably in the show notes too.
Somewhere.
That's where it is. Join our Discord, get in there, talk to a bunch of randos, and it's going to be super, super fun. Speaking of notes and speaking of Discords, real quick, I just want to share one note because, by the way, you don't even have to call HEY-WRGS. You can jump into the Discord and you can recommend mandates and demographics and genres and tones.
There was a fantastic note that someone left in there.
You can also give notes.
Salt and Pepper episode.
This is the Salt and Pepper episode. This is the one where Ryan and I basically died on mic while recording. You could hear us actively dying. I believe this goes credit to Brian the White, who said you guys should have just done the California Raisins biopic reboot for our our heartwarming music biopic where all the characters must be inanimate objects. And I have to say, I was physically angry when I read that we didn't
It's
think
already
of doing.
so much better than our terrible Salt and Pepper biopic played by actual salt and pepper shakers.
It doesn't take a lot to be better than that, but this is immediately and extremely better than that.
Yes.
Speaking of immediately and extremely better than both of us as people and as filmmakers, we like to welcome our very special guest today. He is we wrote this as a joke, but this really doesn't describe him well. He's a reluctant, humble, and freakishly talented director. Please welcome our good friend, Ryan Booth.
Hello. How's it going?
So, Seth, you can totally call him Ryan or Booth. I'll go by Polly for this episode. We ran into this same problem in the Ryan Connolly episode.
I know like 40 Ryans.
There's too many white Ryans in this world.
Too many Ryans. Many
White
of them.
Ryans.
White Ryan.
Great
There
White
are
Ryans.
a lot of White Ryans for sure.
Booth, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we get our assignment from the studio, what are your favorite movies? I know you are a director, you're a writer, you've made some shorts and are working on a feature. What kind of movies do you like to make? What is like your bread and butter, you'd say?
And why are they
That I like
all
to make
almost
or
famous?
watch?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I mean, my kind of two favorites that I always talk about are Almost Famous and Children of Men, which could not be more different from each other. But I definitely like really dark kind of sci-fi-ish films for sure, but I also love music and kind of small movies basically. So yeah, Almost Famous is one of my favorites, and I almost said Vanilla Sky, which I do like Vanilla Sky. I like the music in Vanilla Sky, but Almost Famous and Children of Men are my two favorites for sure.
Love that.
And Almost Famous is really special to you also because that you came up, it's in your background. I know this isn't an interview Ryan Booth show, but that's very much like your background.
Yeah, 100%. So I came up as an audio engineer first. I kind of did a narrative short based on my time kind of spent in music, and not just as an audio engineer. Like right when I got into filmmaking, a lot of my kind of early filmmaking was music related. I still do a lot of music stuff. And so, you know, I've gotten to work with some of the world's best musicians, quite literally. And so it's been amazing to see that the kind of little indie bands that I was working with at the very beginning on the audio side, that kind of my transition into filmmaking and the time that I spent with them out on the road and, you know, watching the kind of travails of what it means to be a musician, all the way up to, you know, I've gotten to work with Elton John and like, you know, Paul McCartney, the kind of legends, right? It's all the same. Like they all are going through the same kind of process. And so I think musicians in particular are near and dear to my heart. So music films, Almost Famous, Crazy Heart's another one that I love.
You should have been on our music biopic episode.
Yeah, he sounds like you should have been on last week.
You really would have helped on that one.
I'm pitching to be on the wrong episode. Exactly. But anyway, yeah, I love music films. My first feature will be a music film. So
Love
yeah,
that.
they're fun.
Love that. What is Oh, it's that must be the studio calling.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell Ryan. So the studio calls.
You guys have a direct
Holly.
line?
Yeah, on the
Hello?
landline. It's Hollywood, man.
Hey, yeah, how's it
And
going?
They usually they email me, so they call
Okay.
Ryan to tell him that they emailed me. But my fax machine or my
Okay.
email is not working today, so I
you
believe they're
got
going to
it.
be emailing Ryan as well.
All right, yeah.
Okay,
Looking forward to it.
cool.
Okay, thanks, bye.
This is a pivotal part of our audio podcast.
Okay, they said they're actually emailing me the assignment this time, Seth, so I'm going to check it out. So they want us to make an action movie, which is, you know,
Oh,
All right.
cool,
amazing.
basic, but the tone is cry your eyes out.
Oh no. Okay.
Our target audience is fans of the Coen brothers,
Oh man.
Okay.
which is interesting. And then our studio mandate, they want us to integrate someone who acted in the Goonies. And that's actually a listener submitted mandate from Ryan Summers.
That's a cast, or like does this have to be a character from the Goonies?
No, someone from the cast of the Goonies.
Okay.
The Writer's Room game show has begun.
Okay, so our Cry Your Eyes Out action movie for fans of the Coen brothers,
Who
incorporating.
are known for being overly sentimental, emotional filmmakers right off the bat.
Just right off the bat, an action movie directed by the Coens sounds pretty fun to me.
That would be amazing.
Because, you know, obviously they're good with sort of the offbeat comedy and then, you know, really good emotional depth in their characters.
Yeah, what would a fan of the Coen brothers expect if they were told, if you love the Coen brothers, you'll love this? Like, what are the main features of a Coen brothers movie you guys would think of? Because
An absurd kind of scenario I feel like, right? Where it's like somebody who, you don't kill somebody, you put them in the wood chipper, right? You don't shoot them with a gun, put them in a wood chipper. So I feel like
I like that Fargo, the first reference. I like that.
Well, Fargo is a good definitive reference because it's like it's got the true crime feeling of like it's so weird that it has to be true, and that's something I think of also immediately with the Coens is that like it's funny your appearance on this podcast booth came from a fake Twitter fight between the three of us about story structure.
Me raging against story structure,
and we got a Coen Brothers assignment, which is like
structure.
No, it's structureless. From what I understand, it's very much. I mean, maybe it is structured, but the interviews I've heard is that they're like, if we know where we're going, then the audience could too. So they just apparently, from everything I've heard, they write beginning to middle to end.
Interesting. Okay.
Fight me on that though, Paula. You're looking like
I'm just thinking, really, because I'm thinking because they've done so much too. Like you have everything from Burn After Reading, which is sort of farce comedy, and then you have No Country for Old Men, which is obviously very, it's the adaptation. It's based on a very serious book. You have stuff like Fargo, which kind of sits in the middle. So
did you ever read No Country? Did either of you guys read No Country?
No.
It's horrifying, terrible. Like it's the darkest book you've ever read.
Really?
It is. Just the intensity of that book is like you just like put it down and you go, that was not I could never engage with this material again. Like it is so dark. And it's just really interesting to watch the movie, which is one I love No Country and will rewatch No Country, but it's amazing like how they brought a tone to that work that like was not in the book at all.
Interesting.
Like the scene, I think of the scene with the gas station attendant.
First one I think of with the gum, right? Yeah, with the rapper.
And he's kind of like the guy. I mean, there's comedy in that, even though the guy's like literally about to die and he does not know it. In the book, that is like a horror film.
I feel like that's all character too, and like the way they cast it, and because that's something I think that's a through line with Coen's is sort of that absurd, sort of offbeat character that even in that moment where it's this demon about to kill this guy, you care about this.
I heard a very funny story I may have told on this podcast before from a friend of mine who went to an early screening of No Country in LA, and cast and crew were there, and like they walked out of the theater in the lobby are like, I don't know how much of the cast, but Javier Bardem is there, and he's like, apparently he's the big giant sweetheart of a man. He's like open arms, like, how did you like the film? And they're all like, you don't really understand. None of us want to go near you. Like, get away.
Yeah, exactly. I do feel like my initial reaction to this prompt is that the key to this is the Goonies character, because picking the Goonies character would be the most Coen-esque.
Do we want to do a Goonies character as opposed to a cast member from the Goonies, which is what the mandate was? Do we want to like straight up take a Goonies?
No, but it could be the cast member, but I just think that like whoever it is that comes to mind.
I agree. We center it, we build it around them.
Totally, because I feel like that would be the like that's the entry point to like what would make an action film feel like Coen Brothers.
Okay,
like,
hear me out. I know you're not a huge Goonies fan, Seth, but I do know that you love Indiana Jones and Short Round.
Kwan, I love that idea.
Or Data from the Goonies is someone I love, and he just completely disappeared when he became an adult. I don't think he acts in much anymore.
Isn't he a lawyer or something? No, that's one of the other. I can't remember
It'd be fun to have him maybe as an adult, or if we're writing this in modern time. I just really love that character and that actor. I just haven't seen him in anything lately.
Oh, he's it
would be the easy thing would be to use Josh Brolin, because it's
already right, who's been in a Coen. Who's been in Coen. Yeah, exactly. Who was it? Maybe it was Chunk, who is he an entertainment lawyer now?
Jeff Coen. Oh, sounds like a name. Yes, he is an American attorney and former child actor.
And he's super slim now. And like
he looks just like Chunk on the face.
Yeah, I remember because what's his face? Oh my gosh, Josh Gad. I guess during lockdown he did all those like reunion shows, whatever. Those are really good. Did one with the Goonies people, and it was quite funny actually.
You got a lot of people in this cast you could put into a Coen Brothers movie. Joe Pantoliano.
Totally. It's interesting too, because we this is one of the broader assignments you've gotten, just because it's like cry your eyes off. That could be sad or happy. happy, kind of Marley and Me style, cry your eyes out. But then action movie, that's obviously a whole thing. And then fans of the Coen brothers, which is setting a tone for the movie you're writing.
I think it's about creating very specific and slightly offbeat characters and treating them in a grounded and realistic and fully committed way. Telling a story that is built that like the majority of its money and weight is put into its characters, like figuratively and literally. And if you come at it from that standpoint, you can do any genre you want. And thinking about action and cry your eyes out, I immediately think of like a post in Toy Story 3 Pixar action movie. Like if you were, it's basically a mandate that every Pixar movie has to make you cry now, for better or for worse. And so let's just figure out what would Pixar do if they had to make an action movie. So what kind of action movie are we talking here? Are we talking like Fast and the Furious? Are we talking Die Hard? Are we talking like 80s Jungle Commando?
Platoon.
What's it?
Commando.
Commando is what
Congo.
I thought of. Or Cobra.
Oh my God.
Wasn't Cobra the Stallone one? Or what's the Stallone one?
Cliffhanger.
Oh, well, okay, done. Cliffhanger is what we're doing. We're going to...
Coen Brothers makes Cliffhanger.
Oh my God. Can we talk about the plot of Cliffhanger? Hang on.
I went straight to Congo when you said jungle.
What you were thinking of?
Yes, the out. No, it was not, but it's what I am now. The plot of Cliffhanger: a former mountain rescuer is pitted against a group of criminals who've lost their $100 million stash during a plane crash in the Rocky Mountains.
We've got a No Country flair there a little bit with people losing a thing of cash.
Oh yeah, losing.
That can be a little homage to.
It's built around crime and cash in the snow.
Yes.
Do we do a Cliffhanger reboot with Josh Brolin? And
My gosh.
Directed by the Coen brothers.
Written and directed by the Coen brothers.
Oh my Lord.
Or directed by, because we're writing it.
I'm not
Poor
against
bastards.
it. I'll say that. Yeah, the thing is, it's like action, the style of, I guess the style of action movie, to me, it's like Coen brothers, you put it through the lens of Coen brothers and it can kind of be, it's just weird. They've done so many different things. I'm like trying to wrap my head around what their action movie would look like. And I feel like I would love to see them do huge, action set pieces just in between, have your fun, Coen brothers.
You say huge. Do you mean Fast and the Furious huge, or do you mean like...
No, I mean like a Mission Impossible style where it's like these big set pieces and in between is like the stuff we love in Coen brothers, which is like the
I feel like it would look a lot like the last couple Bond movies is what it would look like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
I feel like the hero would be reluctantly would find himself in this position as opposed to like, with a Bond, like, from the jump, like, okay, well, I mean, the guy, like, this is what he loves to do. So surely the hijinks he finds himself in are of his own choosing in some way. Yeah. And I feel like a Coen version would be like somebody who like never conceived of the possibility that this might be happening to them. And yet they are in the middle of the largest set pieces a human could be a part of, Do
you know what? There's a movie I love from the 80s called Effects. Have you guys ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Okay. It's brilliant, Polly. It's like this. Well, I say it's brilliant. Last time I watched it I was in high school and I watched it with my dad and he was showing it to me like so excitedly. I have no idea if it holds up. It's about like a special effects artist. Like it's like a heist movie featured around a guy who's a movie effects artist. And I believe that's what I vaguely remembered it being.
Yes, you were correct. Yeah, I just had another idea, but finish your thoughts.
No. Well, I was gonna say like, no, I want to hear your idea, Booth. And
so the YouTube algorithm decided a while ago that it would start to serve me up airsoft videos. Have you guys
like airsoft guns?
Airsoft, yes. Do you know what happens like in airsoft? How intense airsoft
it's
is?
Like sort of like paintball, but it's like
correct.
More painful?
And they will do multiple day. Well, so the thing about airsoft that's different than paintball is the weapons are
based on real weapons.
Exactly. So you have someone who gets really good at
like
shooting a sniper rifle, and somebody who's shooting like a bazooka.
It's basically
literally
Call of Duty in real life.
Yes.
Wait,
and
what's a bazooka
of
airsoft? Like, are those just big, like, wiffle balls?
No, it'll be like a canister that has like 2,000 BBs in it, and they'll shoot like a grenade launcher.
How are you alive at the end of this? This is death games.
It'll kill everybody that's like, it will, because it's tag, right? I mean, that's what airsoft is tag. And so
is shooting people with a gun.
That's true. You just don't get back up. That's a good point. But anyway, so like you shoot this grenade into the middle of people and everyone is out and they have to go respawn.
Yeah, but okay, define out though. I'm trying to understand, like, if it's airsoft.
So it's like capture the flag or like elimination, right? So
I guess my
like
question is how do they still have eyes? Because I've been shot with an airsoft gun.
So they're
before,
wearing full. They're wearing the like these intense games. These people are they're in full like kit and gear.
Okay. That makes sense. There we go.
They've got face masks on with goggles and the whole thing. They're wearing like the snipers are in ghillie suits. And like a lot of special forces guys will go and play airsoft as like just.
I love where this is going.
So the most intense version of this is something called MilSim, which is military simulation, and they will do multiple day, like camp out overnight, like multi-day airsoft games. It's like with full formation, they'll be in platoons, like it's a whole thing. And YouTube just decided to start sending me these videos of like very extensive airsoft games. Okay, so that's one idea strain. And then a concurrent idea strain is I've thought forever that the best day to commit a murder is July 4th because everyone is
fireworks go off.
Right, the fireworks are going off and you can fire guns and no one cares, right? So I like what would happen if like some rich person or like the son of a senator or something was like really into airsoft and the the bad guys sent a hit team to the airsoft game and started actually killing people. And the MilSim game had to turn into a real like firefight to survive.
It's like Space Camp for airsoft. I'm all about this.
But this is FX is that basically, which is like, is it real or is it not? You know, and hijinks
what
ensue.
What I really love is
murder.
the idea of a MilSim like instructor, like a guy who. You know, like, he's a guy who like makes his money by like he owns the land that they do these things on. He basically makes money by like hosting these things, like or renting it out to teenagers or college students or whoever does these things. And he's our protagonist. And to put that guy into a scenario like what you're talking about, you put that guy into a real, and he has no military training. He literally is just like
he's just an airsoft like instructor. So there's a third strain that YouTube once you're like, all right, he likes airsoft gun videos, then they start serving you like actual like gun videos basically, which the YouTube algorithm is a very fascinating robot. But so
kind of predictable, it sounds like. You like totally. Fake guns? You might like real guns.
Yeah, exactly. Not that smart, I guess. But the crossover video before it just started serving like gun videos was basically the best airsoft players, can they actually fire real weapons accurately? Essentially. And so it was like this one, weapons training YouTube channel. They had a professional airsoft player come in who he's from Japan and they have no firearms in Japan. And so they literally put a gun in his hand for the first time and ran him through a bunch of drills. Like, can he do it? And basically like the first few times, like the recoil was like, he was missing because of the recoil, but like very quickly. And I'm telling you, like somebody who could like pull the gun, pop, 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 like reload, pop, 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 reload, pop, 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 like across targets, like all the crazy John Wick stuff that you've seen, and like it took him like 2 times to do it. And all of a sudden he was like hitting dead center targets, like within like 3 attempts at firing a weapon ever. And they were like, okay, well, I mean, like airsoft is like as close to real like training as you can get, basically.
It sounds like our film is called Airsoft. And it's
MilSim. Yeah.
MilSim sounds like a Simpsons simulator where you just are
a Millhouse simulator.
You're just
That's right.
a Millhouse simulator. Which actually, it fits in with one of my favorite Simpsons joke ever, which is from Marge the cop, or Marge becomes a cop, where it's when the latter half of the episode, and she's like chasing down like a perp or somebody in her backyard, and it suddenly becomes like target practice from her POV, and Milhouse randomly, it's the middle of the night, randomly jumps out of a bush like, "Can Mark about to play?" Like it's just like clearly I just explained a Simpsons joke, which is what everyone knows works all the time.
I really do love that idea though. I like airsoft. I like the idea of this character who's like an airsoft pro, takes himself very seriously, kind of lame. and he's suddenly put in this position where he is. It's really great. I like this idea of suddenly putting him in like a real world like war, or putting a real gun in his hands and like seeing what happens.
Or is there a murderer in the midst? Like,
and
Booth. That's where Booth was going with it. There's like one murderer in the midst of all of this. This one
airsoft
booking.
milsim.
And so he's having to solve this.
Ooh, that's good too. Yeah,
it's suddenly a fight for their life.
That's freaking great, because then it's like he's trying to protect the other people in his
air
like.
hard. That sounds filthy.
Oh nope! It sounds perfectly marketable. Air hard.
Air hard.
Just typing that real quick.
Story. Yeah.
It's like you misspelled airhead in the worst way.
And I mean, why not place it on 4th of July as well?
That's brilliant.
Although I guess if you're having an airsoft game, there's already going to be sounds, right? Like they're
the
already popping
nowhere.
off like real guns, right? So a real gun.
Well,
in
those
the midst
games,
of
those
airsoft.
guns don't make the same sound though.
No, they don't.
They're like
just
quieter?
They're just like ding, 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 ding.
Gotcha.
Like it's not.
I've got a couple.
Goes into the background to get his airsoft guns. I don't feel safe on
I
set.
don't feel safe.
No. I don't know what I'm doing with it, which makes you feel even more safe. I can't
that's
get this
great.
to make the right
Okay.
sound.
Well, we have 24 minutes left.
Oh, no.
We should
Okay.
think of some either set pieces or
I want a
characters.
thumbnail. Sorry, I want our thumbnail just to be me with no explanation whatsoever. Just I don't know if I'm pointed at any square. All right.
Yeah, we should think of some characters or little. I like the someone dies and it sort of becomes this action murder mystery sort of story. I definitely think incorporating some sort of what's like with the mill sim. Are they doing, for some reason I'm thinking of Red Dawn now? Are they doing like Americans versus like Russians, or like is it
There's
like,
every man for himself.
No, it's big. It's two teams, so it'll be like two like large groups of people that are fighting each other.
But it's not like an
objectively.
actual like war simulator. They have a team.
Not,
and they're-
not
cool.
necessarily. I mean, I don't know if they get to. It's not
I thought
like
you were a scholar.
I don't think they like recreate the Battle of Stalingrad or something like that.
It's got to be out in the middle of nowhere though, and it's got to be.
It is. It's often in like decommissioned military bases or like an abandoned mall. There's a huge game every year that happens like in an abandoned mall in Minneapolis.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like a
I'm
huge
trying to think
mall.
if there's a way we can trap them there and have it to where cops can't get there.
Right.
Because like they're not like, oh, I guess we better continue the mill sim. Like now that one person's died, like it's got to be like, well, we're all out here. Like the first act is kind of like you introduce like what this guy does for a living. You have him like maybe it's like you fake everybody out. You cold open of the movie is like it seems like the guy's in some war scenario, but he's actually just like finishing up this one like booking, and then sends them all home. Then you have him, whatever his personal life looks like, we talk about that because that's going to come into play. If there's one other person out there in the remote area, they are. Then you have everybody start to show up for this next booking, and everybody seems, it's kind of murder mystery, so like everybody seems to have a secret, or everybody seems to be like, it kind of fits an archetype. Second act, that first half of the second act is like you do some of the military simulation stuff, but like you basically get to do a little bit of the mil sim stuff until somebody dies, and then when somebody dies, from that point on, we're in the setting for a mil sim, but we're not voluntarily running a mil sim anymore.
No. Well, and two, I think you would want to delay how long it takes for people to know what's going on, right? Like, I mean, like, so basically it's not like it just all happens at once. There's like a group of one person there, or, an assassin, let's say, who's there to like specifically kill somebody. And like that process would need to you would need to delay the kind of broader group understing what's happening, right?
Definitely. So then a lot of people are still, that's brilliant. Because there's lack of communication. A lot of them are still playing the game, not knowing that, that's brilliant.
Not knowing there's someone on the other side who has a real gun that is
who has a real gun.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's one real gun in the in the group, basically.
And you just take a long time getting everyone the information
that
that's
bazooka is
going
going to come into play at some point. It's going to be real fun.
It's grenade launcher. Looking at
Grenade launcher.
airsoft grenade launcher.
I don't know anything about guns, so I don't know.
I'm gonna send you guys these. There's a couple of YouTube channels in particular.
Let's go into private mode so we don't start getting the same algorithms that Booth gets.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I look up VFX reference all the time, so YouTube has no idea what I like. It's like, does he like earthquakes? Does he like guns?
So I definitely think bringing in someone from his personal life, either as a hostage maybe from this main person, or thinking of Cry Your Eyes Out Now, our tone,
right.
A way to bring in a sort of emotional core to our protagonist who has no name yet, but involve them so that we can sort of get emotionally involved and maybe lose them, causing us to cry our eyes out. Oh, we got a link now.
I haven't even clicked on the link yet. I was looking at, maybe this is the same one I'm looking at.
350 player airsoft war. Wow. Oh, and
350? That's incredible.
Yeah, this is straight up Call of Duty.
This is very Texas.
Oh yeah. Oh, here we go. Here's the abandoned mall one.
Okay, I'm into an abandoned mall. I like that.
They're in full gear. You're not kidding.
No, it's a whole thing.
This is so funny,
this is a
man.
whole.
Oh,
this
dude.
is like an entire
is-
subgroup of people.
The kind of people that don't want to work hard and actually be in the military, but they're like,
These
I want to
colors,
play military.
this colored smoke, is this a normal warfare thing, or is this just for this milsim?
I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine that
Because it's interesting.
I bet it's just airsoft. Yeah, check the mall one out.
Because you'd
It's
want to
fun.
overdo it, and I'm immediately thinking how
This
you
is
light
freaking
an
cool,
entire
man.
scene where you're in a structure like that with all of the colored smoke in it, or
Oh my
you're
gosh,
like,
yeah, totally.
They definitely have to end up in an abandoned mall for the final showdown.
For sure. The way they film it too is actually quite fascinating. You know, they've got like cameras on their guns and like cameras on them on their bodies, and that's totally been. I mean, all the YouTubers. Anyway, but yeah, so the cry your eyes out part, right? Would be, I would imagine you would need to create a relationship between the person who's being targeted, right? So
Yeah,
imagine
there's
like
definitely
a
a
senator's
connection
son
between-
or somebody who like they're the a witness in a trial or something crazy like that, right? Like there's some like time-stamped reason that they should not be alive anymore, right? And that somebody's coming after them. And then the best friend is like with this person in the actual event. They do this thing together, and the emotional connection would come from the like, this was supposed to be fun, and this is now like has now turned into a life or death scenario. And like, I don't want to lose you.
yeah, I'm thinking about I'm gonna sound so cynical when I say this, but I feel like this is one of those I've patented Seth Worley rules he makes up on the spot without any without any kind of testing. The kind of relationships on screen that make you cry when put through the ringer, no matter how much you put them through the ringer. If it's going to be a romantic relationship, it has to be a romance film. Like Titanic is one where like you tear up because the whole thing is about their relationship.
He totally could have fit on the door, by the way.
What? Oh yeah. Sorry, it took me a second.
Definitely could have.
Why don't they have like Halloween decorate? No, there's no holiday attributed to Titanic. If they did, you could have inflatable like Jack and Rose like
you
on
see the
your door.
pictures of the guy? The guy went as the
I
door.
did see that.
Like,
That was
did you
pretty-
see that
No.
one here? Oh my god, it was great. He
Oh my
like was
gosh.
walking around wearing the door. It was he was Jack in the water, but the door was the
out before, like protruded out from him.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he's
yeah.
like,
he,
oh my
he had
God,
the
that's-
door on basically, so he was just like,
That's so good. Hey, it's me, Seth. You probably know or assume that Polly and I are more than just podcast hosts. We're friends, but as you probably suspected, we're also more than friends. We're writers and directors who make money writing and directing commercials and branded shorts and stuff. When you do this stuff for years on years, you develop your own habits and workflows for streamlining the work. And on occasion, a random townsperson will happen to notice these habits, and they'll say, "Hey pal, just what the hell do you think you're doing?" And you explain, "Well, this is just how I plan a shot list," or "This is how I outline a story," or "This is how I dispose of a body." For years, whenever I talk about my story outlining process, where I visualize a story on a clock and use symmetry to fill in gaps and organically find a structure, people would see this and kind of freak out over it. So in 2017, I launched a Kickstarter with my friends Ann Fogerty and Micah Lanier to make the Story Clock notebook based on that Story Clock process. And people freaked out over that enough for us to start a company called Plot Devices, where we continue to make make and sell notebooks and workbooks based on my own workflows and process as a writer and director, from story clocking and outlining to shot listing and storyboarding. I am told by randos everywhere that these products have helped make writing way less daunting and intimidating for them in their own work. So head over to plotdevices.co and learn about how you can have less money and more Plot Devices products. Use coupon code GAMESHOW to get 20% off your first order. I guess what I was getting is I feel like a quick way to people's tears. The quick way to people's tears, the Seth Worley story, is father like parent-child relationships.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I feel like brother relationships, whether that be actually by blood or not.
Oh, dude, what if the killer is the protagonist's brother? I'm trying to think of a reason that he might be going after him. If there was a blood connection or some sort of strong connection between the killer and our protagonist, and he's killing all these people to try to get to him to kill him, or that's not really cry your eyes out though. I feel like we need to.
It is if there's something rooted in their childhood too.
Well, if it's because this is weekend hobby, right? I mean, that's all that Airsoft is. Now, there's backstory involved, which is maybe the guy is maybe the dad, let's call it the dad. Maybe the dad's ex-special forces, was never really able to talk about what he did, with his kids or whatever. And so they do this thing together as a way to kind of they connected over it when they were younger. It's a way for him to share his past history without having to be super specific about what he did for a living, or whatever it is. He doesn't know how to talk about it otherwise. And so it's this shared activity among, let's call it, the dad and two brothers. Right. But the dad is the target, or one of the brothers is the target. And the three of them, I think three would be good because one of them could die. Right. And then there's still Definitely. The two could.
Yeah. So is the father the one who runs the place?
Could be. Yeah,
so
could be.
What if the father?
But I feel like the point is that this is a hobby thing that's not meant to be serious, right? It is not meant to be. It is purely for entertainment.
Exactly.
It's like playing golf on the weekend, or
and that's what's so fun about
whatever.
That's what's so fun about having a main character who is their full-time job is someone else's weekend hobby.
Totally.
And it's out in a secluded area. So what if you had, I don't know why I keep imagining David Strathern. I've never said his name out loud. David Strathern? Strathern?
Mm-hmm.
He's not from the Goonies, so he won't fulfill that mandate. But I'm imagining him as, I don't know why I'm imagining him, but as this main character who runs this place, and perhaps his sons, who he doesn't have a close relationship with, are out here this weekend with this whole group doing this. And
that's
so,
cool. Yep.
And one of their friends who they brought is a famous person, is a person who would be the target. Because I feel like it's a Coen Brothers movie, so none of the main characters should be the target. It should be some supporting character.
Correct.
Who
has
everybody else's lives
upon them. Yeah.
And everybody's lives are hinged on this, supporting character.
Right.
And what if the main character, what if he runs this place and the reason he's distant from his kids is because maybe he does. I know we talked about not wanting to have that, not wanting to have the conflict be in the main character's wheelhouse, but it is kind of interesting to think about if he has this military past or if he had a military past, it's just desk job military where it's sure.
That's very Coen's.
So, yeah. And so
it was he ran the PR office.
Yeah.
He did marketing for the Marines.
He did marketing for the military.
We just made him Tom Cruise now from Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Hey,
I just did an Army commercial, so all the Army people I worked with were PR people. But
yeah, that's fun. Okay. Yeah.
That's all.
What if
that's all?
Well, even
that's all I have.
Even if he's not, even if it's not former, if he's there currently, and we see in his normal world, he's at a desk doing whatever, maybe there's, shots of him looking at it an army poster of these guys actually risking their lives. And
so he doesn't run this thing, or he runs it on the weekends and is.
Yeah, I don't know, something like that where he looks up at a poster and sees army, soldiers risking their lives, running with their guns, and he look at match cuts with him doing that on the airsoft field because that's the only place.
I'm fully unqualified to pitch this idea. But what if a lot of the guys coming through that he sees, say he's ex-military, not to throw out your idea, but you inspired an idea, Paul.
Yeah.
What if he's ex-military and in all of it, most of I imagine a large number of his customers are. Well, I'm not going to assume. Let's say for the story, a large part of its customers that come through are also military or ex-military who come out and do this almost it's that PTSD, like it's what I know kind of lifestyle. I'm really just going off of what's in movies. I know nothing about this this
Like
experience.
therapy,
Life
is what
experience.
you're saying? This is therapy of some kind?
Kind of, and maybe not healthy, the healthy kind.
Right.
And he like can't relate to them because he was never in battle. Like he was like the idea that like he even feels inferior to his customers that come through that have military background, because maybe he just feels like I don't know, there's some inferiority complex because he's only ever worked at a desk and then run this airsoft like facility out in the middle. And something about giving him a little bit of inferiority complex or something.
That's interesting for sure. I think one of my friends, Mohammed Gorgisani, he made a film called Exit 12, which is basically about these ex-military guys who started a dance studio specifically for soldiers to like work through kind of trauma of being in the military or whatever. And they would do these kind of elaborately staged dances with like in full kit with their weapons and everything, like as this kind of like this way of, confronting some of the things that had happened to them. They had not been able to speak out loud. Right. And that they have not been able to articulate. So I think from an emotional standpoint, if this becomes actually a serious, a serious film, I think and maybe this is, I mean, it's a little twisted, but I do think maybe that's the Coen version of it, is that this guy's running a therapy program using airsoft as a way of like helping soldiers and people like with kind of traumatic experiences resensitize to like intense situations using airsoft. And basically their kind of graduation ceremony is like a large like game in which they can engage in airsoft and it's not traumatic anymore, right? That they're they've made it through the end of the program and it's a giant celebration where they have a big game and it's not traumatic anymore and it's just fun, except it turns into a murder mayhem.
Which sick is bastard brought a real gun.
Dude, which is like, maybe that's the like, I mean, that's the Coen version of it, right? Which is like they're celebrating being free of the trauma of the things that they've experienced in the past, and they get caught up in like a murder mayhem spree.
I love
somebody
that. So
stuck into the kind of graduation event.
I love that. So what are we working him toward? How much time do we have, Paul?
We have 7 minutes left.
What's our ultimate? We don't have to decide how we get there, but what's our emotional goal with him and with him specifically, but with the story in general? Like, does he live through this? Like, what is it that he needs? His character needs in this. I mean, we obviously want to see him. I kind of want to see him be last man standing, to be quite honest. Like, it feels like even
the David Strathairn character.
Yeah. Even if that means both his sons die, which is dark.
Sean Astin and
Sean Astin.
Sean Astin would be amazing. I think that's Goonie. Actually, I feel like he would be the right Goonie for this moment, right?
Yeah. The right Goonie for the moment. I agree.
I think he would be, just because I think, especially with David Strathairn, like imagine him as his dad. Like that's great. That would go hard.
Yes.
That would be emotional.
Because I think with the whole therapy thing, I think the goal, if we want to leave it on a positive, try to leave it on some sort of a positive note. I guess it's Coen Brothers. We don't have to.
Would the Coens leave it on a positive note?
No country. It's just sort of like this happened and that's
everybody dies. Yeah. And the cop is like, fuck. Literally, the end of it is him just going, "Damn." Yeah.
That's literally Tommy Lee Jones just
into the movie
over the course of a over the course of a monologue.
So I mean, I think the audience would want to see him sort of feel like this therapy has helped people kind of get over this thing. I don't know if we want to. I'm getting confused by our characters now. Sean Astin would be
son.
So
there's two sons, Sean Astin and somebody else, and
somebody else died,
and then a famous friend who
brings the mayhem.
Brings the mayhem by being the target, and then some unknown.
David Strathairn is the owner of the
who never saw real warfare, real battle, but now is in this weird warped scenario. And I really want to see him be last man standing with the killer, and maybe they both die. You mentioned something about
and the fireworks. It tilts up to the fireworks going off.
Yeah.
Sean Astin is crying over his dead dad.
Yeah. Oh, he's alive? All right. See, I had him dead.
He awakes and then cries.
Yeah, Sean Astin, like Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws style, wakes up, except Roy Scheider's dead in this metaphor.
Oh, this is bad.
This is actually
you know what?
actually not as bad as it has Booth. There's a few episodes that are rough.
Yeah.
I feel like I've led us down a very. Is this the moment, Seth, where you're just like, oh no, how?
I don't know what you're talking about, Booth. Let me tell you something. This is one of the coolest ideas we've had on the show, in my opinion. I actually love it.
I just
can
got
see it.
self-conscious about airsoft.
We have
No, I can see it. I'm just thinking about how we pitch it and what the ending of the pitch is, or kind of just we want to be able to generally like kind of explain. Say like what we're hoping to accomplish with the character.
At least if
like
we have a beginning and an end, we can kind of bullshit the middle a little bit.
Totally.
And we can just,
It feels like to me that there needs to be some kind of, okay, so let's imagine David Strathairn is providing therapy for everyone, but he's not like it. He needs it. By providing therapy to everyone, he is avoiding the moment that he needs to have with his own kids, which is to tell them what happened to him. Right. All right, let's change this. Let's say he lost his best friend in combat. Right. And he's never been able to talk about it. And he basically has suffered from.
You're genius. You just made this therapy and it's brilliant.
Right. And so he has basically created this therapy program to help other soldiers, but he has he's been able to hide from needing the therapy himself. Right. And so in the final moments, basically of like, and this would be some kind of mirror or echo. This horrible thing that happens is a mirror or an echo of what happened with his best friend that he wasn't able to save in his like actual combat experience. And he's able to save his son. And in the final moments is able to tell him finally, like, this is what happened to me. You know, this is his redemptive moment, basically, where his son is able to walk away from this event. Yes.
That's brilliant. I love it. You just took it and made it that's the other thing that makes people cry. You don't have to have even like loss in a story, but having someone, the only thing I would argue, the ultimate thing that makes me cry in movies as a character is that radical acceptance on screen of a character fully confronting who they are, and coming to terms with it. And this is wonderful. A really, really great way that we can externalize very, very nicely. What's our timer?
We got about a minute and a half.
We got no wild cards this episode.
We didn't. No. The Writers Room game show algorithm didn't provide us.
We didn't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
It probably would have ruined it. It would have told us to put it in the alien universe or something.
Nice.
Yeah, so how do you guys feel about Air Hard?
It's actually air soft, like soft inside.
Yes. Soft air is what we'll call it.
Soft air.
Yeah, does this feel Coen enough for you guys?
Yes.
Do you guys feel confident
a lot of that's an execution,
and convincing our target audience that it's directed by the Coens?
I mean, with them knowing that, I feel like they'll project exactly what I'm projecting onto it. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like,
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the premise is absurd from it, like on its face. And there will be the Coen-ness of it is the extent with which in Act 2 that some people are in and some people are out of knowledge of what is happening, right? So that they're just imagine a scenario in which somebody shows up with their gun, catches the killer, right? And is like, pop, 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 and like, you're out, bro. And then there's the moment that happens where the guy's like, I'm not out. And he's like, you know, I don't know. There's a aggressive murderer. Am I? I am. But you know what I'm saying? That I feel like that some people knowing and some people not knowing is the thing that you could play with from an execution standpoint.
Time to pitch your movie.
Let them have their fun.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And that's our timer.
That's our timer. And we're going to bring in our focus group and let's see how it goes.
Here they come.
He's a writer and director of short films like Guest of Honor, Snowbirds, Grape Soda. You can catch his incredible feature documentary, My Brother Jordan, on YouTube. We love him. Very grateful he's on our show today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our focus group, Mr. Justin Robinson.
Justin Robinson! That's the cheering.
Thanks for having me.
He's our guest of honor today.
Pause. Hold on. They're not done applauding yet. Just wait. Hang on. They're still going.
They're happy to be here.
He got a 12-minute standing ovation at Con. Justin, we're going to pitch you a movie. Our assignment. You want to hear our assignment? Here we go. We got an action movie. The tone is cry your eyes out. The target audience is fans of the Coen brothers. And our studio mandate was we had to integrate a cast member from the Goonies into the movie. And
shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad. Our sort of cry your eyes out action movie directed by the Coen brothers. Your classic Coen brothers movie.
Classic Coen brothers.
And Mr. Booth is going to talk about maybe a little bit of the subject matter of our film.
All right, perfect. All right, we'll start with the setup first. Number one, the thing to know is there is an entire community of people that play airsoft. Are you familiar with airsoft? Are you
I'm game? Just change it to paintball, and I'll call the film Wet Paint. I'll make it.
Okay, great. So,
I'm in. Sorry.
Okay, great. All right. So there is like and I mean no disrespect. There are the weekend warriors who like literally will go full camo, full gear, full everything, right? And they will play airsoft, and not just airsoft. They will do milsim, which is the kind of top level airsoft, which is like 200-300 people split into teams over multi-day
They're
events.
like dressed up in full military garb.
They'll play like on an abandoned military base somewhere where it's like, they have like multiple assignments, and it's like a massive kind of very serious, kind of very intensely competitive game of airsoft. Now, a lot of times ex-military guys will actually go play airsoft. A lot of them will do it as a way of like kind of continuing connection to that part of their lives. But these are like very intense, very large, very kind of extensive games. And one thing to know about that is that the weapons that they use and their tactics are identical to kind of military grade weapons and tactics, right? They're on comms, their guns look like real guns. Everything feels real, except they're shooting plastic pellets, right? So that's the setup and the context. And now I'll pass it to Seth to give us our Act 1 breakdown.
So our main character, we're imagining, picture someone like David Strathern. Did I say that? I still feel like I'm not saying it right.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
He's the born identity bad guy, right?
No, born supremacy bad guy.
Supremacy.
He's also Whistler and Sneakers. I'm getting all the most obscure references.
River Wild. He was also in River Wild.
He was in River Wild. Why didn't we talk about River Wild this whole time? We did talk about Cliffhanger quite a bit. So, sorry, Justin. Please
nailed it.
Still
Done.
love this.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I was homeschooled. I'm always on the outside.
So he's this guy who ex-military runs one of these like milsim campus locations. Like it's basically this abandoned like military base. There's even possibly maybe even bigger. There could be like an abandoned like shopping mall or something nearby. I don't know why there'd be an abandoned military base directly adjacent to a shopping mall, but we discussed both options. The point is that it's in a remote location that when every weekend like a whole bunch of folks come out and run this weekend long thing, and he runs the campus. He orchestrates and organizes the whole thing, and this is what he does. And it's kind of even though there's people coming in every weekend, it's think about something that people would like do as a weekend hobby. It's his full-time job, so it's kind of a solitary job. This movie, the event that's happening at this movie, we learn that he has two estranged sons who are a part of this big event that's happening on his location this weekend, and he sees it as an opportunity to kind of like, it's the first time his grown sons have come out to this place. He doesn't really spend a lot of time with them ever.
Sean Astin and Josh Brolin.
Yeah, Sean Astin and Josh Brolin.
Perfect.
And they don't have a great relationship with their dad, but they're doing this because some friends wanted to come out and do this, and they had the hookup, and so he's maybe seeing it as an opportunity to reconnect with them. And well, let me tell you what's going to happen in this movie. What's going to happen is that once this thing gets running and this like all out, simulated military like battle is happening, it's going to become apparent that there's somebody actually in the midst of all of this that has a real gun and is actually targeting a specific person and taking out the people around them. But because it's so sprawling and there's so many people, it takes a long time for everybody to get the news and information and understand that this is not part of the game and that there's something happening here. And so he ends up it's up to him to actually ultimately to, as people keep getting taken out.
It's also good to note it's on July 4th. And so that also creates the sounds of the fireworks sort of,
masks the real gunfire.
Yeah, exactly.
Blood on you on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I kind of went into this all over the place, but that's the general gist of it. So like, the first act, we open with possibly like a fake out to make you think that we're dropping into the middle of real warfare, but it's actually, we slowly reveal that it's this milsim location.
I really think it'd be fun, kind of Coen way to start it. You're really feeling this action heavy, and then there's just like a hard cut, and it's really sad. These kind of like really, really soft sounding guns, and
and like and just like it bounces off somebody. You have this whole like standoff that essentially happens with this great dialogue written, and then a guy's just hit with a pellet, and he's out.
Like, great job, everybody. They take their helmets off. We kind of get your classic Coen,
and
quirky.
The idea that they all. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
I was just gonna say, like, in between these, them on the battlefield, it's us getting to kind of know the characters. It's these, some of them are sort of hardened guys that have obviously been through a lot in warfare and are kind of using this as therapy. But there's also, in the midst of that, some people that are just like, they work, dead end jobs, and this is like what they just want to have fun and let loose on the weekends and feel like they're doing something like cool and meaningful. And so we get to know some of these interesting characters.
I left out a late stage development that I really loved, and so I actually am going to go ahead and just say it. Forgive me, Justin. It's part of, apparently, I believe it's part of a therapy like program. This whole thing that he runs for ex-military.
So basically, it's like it's essentially, imagine a program that like exists. So our character is kind of ex-military and had some kind of traumatic experiences in the military, and essentially has not really, instead of kind of going to therapy himself, he basically started this program that it was an airsoft program basically to make space for ex-soldiers and people with kind of traumatic experiences to come and play. And they work up to these big games, basically. So the big game is kind of like the graduation ceremony, basically, where they've now been able to kind of experience this thing that is kind of would have previously been re-triggering for them, and yet they're able to kind of enjoy it fully. And that's kind of their graduation. Like, all right, you're done with the program. Like, congratulations, moving on.
And the great ironic tragedy of our Coen Brothers movie is that within this therapy that is supposed to be, fake, just a practice kind of thing, there's a real killer out there actually taking these people out. And we're sort of thrust into our main characters having to deal with suddenly being in this real warfare. And we don't really have a middle section sort of figured out, but in our minds there's some set pieces, sort of seeing them finding out who the killer is, and us getting this great familial sort of emotional connection leading to a finale.
And the big thing is like that relationship between the sons and the dad, and that disconnect between the two of them, between the three of them, being that like dad was never fully present with them and would never talk about
what happened,
and that this would force him to finally tell them, and in certain cases, like while they're dying, and ultimately, whether he's the last man standing and he takes out the killer, like just between the two of them, but the idea is that he finally confronts and faces his demons and is able to connect with his sons either before they die or before he does. We haven't properly decided, but it's that emotional journey that we're working toward, all within the context of what starts as like a simulated warfare in airsoft situation, which quickly turns dark and super emotional.
Cry your eyes out, one would even say.
Yeah. And I think that the most Coen thing to play with would be that second act where you're kind of delaying who knows and who doesn't know that this is like not a game anymore, basically. I think there would be a lot of kind of Coen-esque opportunities to have that come through during the second act for sure.
Yeah, but that's our movie. What's did we land on a title? Are we going with soft air?
Hard air?
Yeah, hard air.
Hard air.
It's equal to Con Air. Yeah.
Airborne.
We talk about air hard, but then just sounds like airhead misspelled.
Well, we have four very specific questions for you, Justin.
Well, first, before we ask you our focus group questions, do you have any comments or questions about our story?
I have two, I believe, relevant stories. First off, it's good to see your faces. You look well. I want all your movies to come true.
Even this one, yeah.
Don't doubt my support.
Hard air.
Don't doubt my support.
Right.
So I have an in with Sean Astin. I was a second AC, my first big second AC job on a movie in 2013 called Mom's Night Out. And I was B camera. So steady cam. We're shooting at this house location for like the first week. So B camera barely played. We get called in to do this Warner going into a house. So it's like, here we go. I go up to Slate right behind Sean Astin's head. It's just me, him, and the steady operator. It's like the lights going down, sun setting, they're rushing. And I go to call the scene and he just rips the loudest fart right in front of me. So I'm like, I'm like, Sean, Slate's coming in behind your head. And he looks back and he just like,
lets it
he's been
rip.
on so many sets, camera department, I don't know, love. And he just rips one. And he's like, hey, I'm Sean. Nice to meet you. And I'm like, what's up? I'm Justin. 54 Alpha, take 2 marker. He's a really cool guy. And then other story was I went paintballing with my brother's youth group in high school on this abandoned golf course in South Carolina. And there's like a bunch of random kind of white trash kids. Like, I don't know how this place was able to stay open. And me, who is like, I don't play video games, but whenever I got a chance to play Halo or Call of Duty, I was really good. So in real life, I think I could have been like a FBI profiler or a detective or a soldier that was amazing for like a quarter of the war. No, definitely die. I just always was good at that stuff. Well, I'm like, first time, I don't think I would have been patient enough to be a good soldier. I just would have been mad that you were shooting at me, you know? So anyways, that's a different movie. This time I'm
the most
playing
interesting
paintball.
guy never lives in a military film. Like,
Well,
So
yeah,
true.
it's like, it's lone survivor. I'm the 5th guy that they're like, all right, ready on 3 or after 3. And I'm already like on top of the hill. Getting squibbed. So I'm stoked to play paintball, but there's all these like young kids kind of like from a rougher area. And then there's these 2 Hispanic guys, full military gear, definitely ex-military. And I'm like, okay, that's the guy I got to kill to win. So it's an abandoned golf course. There's not a lot of places to hide except kind of the edge,
Yeah,
the woods.
did they
So
have did they have any like dividers or like walls or anything, or just straight
honestly,
up the
it wasn't
green?
that much. It was like it was just basically a golf course that was abandoned. That was about it. So any brush was the best place you could hide.
the most shelterless setting you could possibly find.
Just open, long
that's
tracks
great.
of field. Yeah.
Yeah, me and a bunch of youth group kids, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm actually ready to win. I'm like, there's no
Yeah.
way. I'll either sprint full like a guy streaking at a football game, or it's gonna be like real discreet. Well, I take the discreet route in the woods, and there's these you can't go outside. There's these borders where you're not supposed to go outside of, and I'm just creeping, and I get like behind enemy lines, and then I just hear one like
Fart,
leaf
and it's
crack.
Sean Astin.
Yeah, he was there. No, I hear somebody step on a leaf, and I look to my left outside of the border where you're not supposed to be. The Hispanic homeboy just goes boom, and then paint just fills my mask. And I was like,
Damn.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I walked back, and the next game I just ran full sprint. So that guy, quote unquote, broke the rules, but it was like I still can see the paintball coming in my face. So that's a very real, like I would believe that 100%. I feel like the referee character would be interesting because there's always got to be refs, and I feel like if it's
interesting.
air, you know, because people have to raise their gun, but I would be so tempted to shoot somebody and then hold my gun up. So I'm a bad kid. So I think a ref character would be interesting for some of the Coen comedic
There are
stuff.
so many characters we did not even tap into,
Totally.
character archetypes we didn't
Totally.
tap into in this.
And I don't even know the paintball scene that well. I just have seen a couple YouTube videos and played it just a couple times. And it was fun, but I could see how in all reality there's a thing like that where all those ex-military guys are there and their tactical
it gets
skills
pretty
are
serious.
just unmatched. Yeah. You're like,
Yeah,
"Whew,
yeah.
that's why they're trained. They'll kill you. You know,
For sure.
like me, I was dead. I was like, man, that's battle. I'm dead. First guy to go down. So second game, I did not get killed. I just went more like crazy guy in the middle and just started tagging people. I was like, all right, you go discreet. I'm gonna try the other one. So I could definitely see this movie.
Okay,
but
yeah.
Sean
Well, let's
Astin's
get to
story
our
was what really-
our questions. Our first question
Yeah,
for
hit
you
me.
was
I'm gonna turn my light on.
1 to 10. How likely are you to see this movie? A rating.
to see it.
Yeah. How likely are you to see it?
Oh,
Pull it up.
if you guys make it, if you guys are the
Well,
Coen,
the Coen brothers are making it.
oh, 10.
Well, they don't have to be. That's my question. Like,
That's
it's
true,
for
that's
fans
true.
of the Coen brothers. So if we pulled it off with the tone that we're pitching,
if I feel that it's one of those offbeat movies, I'll probably see it no matter what, even if I know I'm going to be disappointed. But this, for sure, I'm
You're
open.
giving
Like,
it a 10.
I grew up in the South in the church. Like, there's so many offbeat stories that nobody would make. But if they saw it, it would be like a new A24 would be formed. A25 would be even weirder films.
825.
Yeah, even weirder. So yeah, I would definitely see it.
Okay.
10.
Well, how likely are you to recommend this to a friend?
1
Boy.
to 10.
I don't push things on people, so
It's okay to
if
be
it's
honest.
good,
here, man.
if it's good, I'd recommend it for sure.
1 to 10.
Oh, sorry, not a rating guy either. Fail. I'm not very
You're
good
like
at
0
Letterboxd.
or 10.
Yeah. Let's say 7.
I'm going to go over assignment again. We made an action movie that was Cry Your Eyes Out for fans of Coen brothers, and we had to integrate a cast member from the Goonies. How well did we adhere to our assignment? 1 to 10.
10.
And then the last question is rate our overall idea. 1 to 10.
Well, since you left out the ref character, there's some work to be done. So I'll say, there's a lot of the comedic elements that the Coen brothers do, where it's like when you see someone do something in public where you don't know whether to laugh or help.
Yep.
That's kind of that sweet spot they fall in, where you're like, and my life has kind of presented itself like that, where like a kid, it's too long, I'll get into stories, but there's a lot of Coen brothers like stories in my life. So I would say,
yeah, that's what we really need. The Justin I know you're writing a book, but we need the Justin Robinson podcast where you just tell crazy stories, because you have
a friend of mine told me about that.
Endless.
It just starts with Polly saying, "How are you, Justin?" And then it's 3 hours.
Well, yeah, because a few years ago they had this conference in Dallas, and I had just started living here, and Elliot Rausch, Booth, Jared Hogan, a couple other guys were supposed to be keynote speakers, and I get a call from Matthew Rojas or somebody like that. They're like, "Hey, would you or Ryan Conley want to fill in? Elliot Rausch had to bounce." I'm like, "You want me to fill in for Elliot Rausch?" It's so funny. So I passed it to Ryan. He turned it down. I said, "I don't, what do you want me to talk about? I have this documentary that I'm making. That's kind of all I could do." I agreed to it. And so the first thing I say when I go up, I'm like, "Hey, sorry guys, I'm the substitute for Elliot Rausch. Everybody who came for Elliot Rausch, sorry." And then I was like, just to give you some backstory, I am a little weird. And I shared the story that had happened recently where a guy in Whataburger in Mississippi had used the restroom and didn't flush. And I found him outside and I said, "You should flush next time." And Booth is in the back of the room, like dying. Like he's like slapping his knees. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe there is a little bit of like, kind of those campfire stories. And then it was kind of around that point I started to document them. And so anything that ever happened, I write down. Usually they're confrontational in nature, but the pandemic really kind of evened out some of those stories. So not being around people a lot, I think a lot of people avoided getting to no longer be strangers to me. But yeah, a friend of mine did say that, where you should just start telling some stories, just because I'm just a journalist. Like this happened and I'm not the hero, I'm not the villain, maybe I am, but some of them are just purely funny.
So that's a 10 on the overall idea.
Yeah, I lost my train. I got to be careful. So if you ask for it, but yeah, the Coen brothers are near and dear. I feel like the Coen brothers would be like off put at some of the stories in my life. They would be like, "Oh, that's weird."
So
and the Coen brothers audience is like is a unique species of people, including myself.
Definitely.
So a 10.
He's taking it. He wants his 10. Just give him.
Okay. Well,
by the way, Justin, no one will sympathize with you more on the idea of digressing and having plenty to say and talk about and going off topic than Seth Worley. So,
or me, because I have to listen to it all day.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to learn that in my age. It's in writing. Like I watched a movie the other day and there was a character, third act, and he said one line. I'm like, man, I feel like I would have said that in 2 pages.
Hey,
and it was really good.
Aaron Sorkin, I love the thing he talks about. He grew up in a household where, like, if you could say it in more than 10 words, why would you say it? And it's something about, like, if you, why would you say it in less than 5 words if you could say it in 15 or something? My point is, you got plenty to say. Don't deprive anybody of it.
That's right.
So I have a podcast coming soon. No, I'm just kidding.
The Writers' Room Game Show with me, Ryan Paul, and Seth Worley. Executive produced by Grant Wakefield at Weekend Video and Ann Fogerty at Plot Devices. Edited to perfection by Rene Gomez. Our art is by your buddy, Meg Lewis, and our face-melting music is by Ben Worley. The Writers' Room Game Show is a Weekend Video production in association with Plot Devices. Learn more about Weekend Video at weekend.video and check out writersroomgame.show to listen to all of our episodes and suggest your own prompts for future shows. And don't forget to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts. It really helps our show out a lot. See you in the next one.